Welcome to Edcast, where we bring together the worlds of electronic dance music and storytelling. Get to know industry leaders and talent on the rise as we sit down with them to share their artist journey from behind the decks. Our community is one for artists and music lovers alike, so settle in and enjoy the experience. Awesome. Welcome to Edcast. We are here with sessions where we are blending the worlds of electronic dance music and storytelling to bring you a unique experience that's curated and just fun to take in. And today we have an incredible artist with us who has recently relocated to Austin, Texas from Dallas. And I'm super excited because we met in a really fun way. Vozz Rich was entered into a DJ competition that I had a couple of months ago. And since then, I was like, I just love your energy. I've heard nothing but great things about you. And I was so excited to have you as at sessions today. So Vozz Rich, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, it's awesome to be here. Really, really grateful. I followed the shows and the artists that are on it, and to get a chance to share my story and be on it it's an honor, and I'm really excited about it. So Vozz Rich, I grew up in Southern California. I actually grew up on the border of Mexico and California, so I speak Spanish. I make Latin house pretty regularly, and I've lived in Texas now for the better part of 4 years, and I love it. I think of it as home. It's been an awesome place for me as an artist, as somebody enjoying all the great things the state has to offer. And I think my main artist focus right now has been production. It's been a very, very productive, I'd say probably 12 to 14 months. I've put out anywhere from 9 to 10 tracks along different EPs with 3 to 4 labels, and it's been a lot of really good hard work. But I'm starting to see a lot of great things come about of it, and just to be able to express myself through music and to do that and to play at venues and to be someone that gets to do that every day, I'm really lucky.
That is incredible. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I absolutely love hearing that story because it just shows like planting good seeds, and you're seeing the fruits of that now. I think that's super cool. Well, before we dive too deep into your music, you and I had a little chat about some things that you're into that we kind of both geeked out over, which was super fun. So you were telling me you love like history of humanity and things like that. So Can you dive into, I could geek out. I've watched all those documentaries, but tell me a little bit about your love of like history.
Yeah, so it's ancient history actually, like human origin. A lot of it's theoretical. A lot of it, is you see a lot of it on the internet. There's been a great series, Graham Hancock's series on it. So the origins of human civilization, art, architecture, where that all comes together, I find it fascinating. I've loved it for a lot of years, following different civilizations, whether it was, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, Etruscan, or even, what they found in Turkey, ancient China. It's fascinating to me, and it led me down a path, actually, I think, to go deeper into my love of music. Everywhere you go when you look at ancient architecture, especially, or ancient art, there's a structure, and there's frequency and resonance in the architecture. It's evident, you can see it. You don't have to be a theorist or a mathematician to see it, that with these buildings, structures, the bells of old cathedrals, resonate at a frequency, and these frequencies have been found to, help with healing human tissue and to aid people, in times of sickness. So I try to incorporate that oftentimes in my music, like we've talked about, and it comes from that. I think as you look all over traditions, whether in Nepal or in India or even in the West, that lives in the music. And I think some of the best music, percussion, strings, wood, any of the instruments that do that, it seems to be universal, and it comes from that tradition. So I think looking at ancient civilizations and where all of that comes together was really inspirational for me, and made me just say, hey, I want to be able to make music that heals people and makes people happy.
You touched on a lot of great points there, because you think about human history and a lot of the things, like some of the first things that we did as like humanity, and I mean, I don't, of course, don't know like total facts, but it's like there's theories of, we, used our voice, voice tones and and frequencies, and that was our communication. We started with like chanting and things that were very old, and just to think about how cool it is that humanity had the power to think about things and change and grow and be like, learn about harmonies. Like, I wish I was there for that moment when humanity discovered how to harmonize and how to chant and like use that as a connection point.
Absolutely.
Use that as an art, use that as a way to, share their history. So I think that's super cool that you're inspired by that.
Yeah, it is really cool. And whales sing. They're another intelligent species on the planet. It's their form of communication.
Yeah.
So, there is something to rhythm and harmony and sounds that you can hear, and even frequencies that you can't hear. They have an impact. I read somewhere, just going down a rabbit hole, I think on, one of our apps, it was about beekeepers and how beekeepers are one of the longest living human professions. They have a really high average age, and I always thought it's just because they're just relaxing and they're sort of, playing with honey and doing cool stuff with smoke, but they found that the bees resonate somewhere around 280 to 330 megahertz, and that actually reduces cortisol in the human body, and it actually heals them. So they find low incidence of cancer. It's all just from being around these bees that are buzzing. And I always thought that was really cool, and I actually toyed around with that and made a few songs that had that harmonic frequency in it, and I tried to see, well, is this going to make me live longer? I don't know, but it might sound cool, but things like that I find fascinating, and I think we're just starting to really see how music, frequency, and healing all comes together. We're just starting to really understand that now and not think it's just, kind of quackery or something kind of crazy and superstitious.
Definitely. And you think about, like, especially with electronic music specifically, I've read about different studies too, that there is a healing component. I don't know the depth of what that is, but there is something about the music and music in general too, bringing people together, sharing in this art form, sharing in community, and maybe bringing other elements of art, food, and experiences into it. I think that is huge to even if it just feels good, and when we feel good, that helps us with anything. Laughter is the best medicine. Music is the best healing tool, I feel. Yeah. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah. I know some artists. My journey as a producer, I've met visual artists. I've met musicians who play traditional instruments, electronic music artists like myself, people who do sculpture, and I found that the single common thread to everybody, no matter what they do or what they create, is they use music, or music is a part of something in their process to get them in the right mindset, to get them to sort of release tension and be creative. It's got a part to it. I watched a fantastic painter, Harpoon, out in Dallas, and he plays music, and you can clearly see the rhythm in his strokes and what it impacts and what he creates. And by the time a series of songs are done that had this mood and feel, you don't know what you're going to get until it's done. And he sort of unveils it, and it's just like this symphony journey of creation. It's all the music, and I always thought I can't see them separated, right? It's part of the same artistic process and flow.
Definitely. I feel the same about music. I always say music is my love language. Like, it's like, if you want to get to my heart, like, music is the way to do it, whether it be conversation about music or experiencing it. So I'd like to dive in. You've been doing this for a while. How did you get started on your music journey?
Well, I grew up in a musical family. Everyone in my family was kind of conscripted to play. We had the very common sort of, immigrant parents who wanted their kids to do well at everything, right? Yeah. Academics, sports, music. And my father's side of the family, he sort of skipped himself, but the generations prior to him were actors and singers in South Korea. And so, my sisters and brothers, we all, had a strong affinity toward music. It just came naturally. Yeah. My sisters and brothers played piano. I have a brother who can pick up any instrument and play it.
Wow.
Even if he's never played it before. I saw him pick up a piccolo, and he knew within a few minutes how to play it, and could play along in this music store we were in. And I can do that oftentimes with guitar or piano. So we all did that. So I'd say my musical journey started really early. And I was lucky enough to be in a family that allowed us to do that. If I said to my parents, hey, I needed a 12-string guitar, they would get it for me, but they would make sure that I really focused in on it, and I would learn it, and I would really get good at it. So from there, music, I think, became something that was always there and important to me, but it took a backseat to life. I went to school. I took music classes when I was in school, and then sort of dropped them, and then picked it up again when I was in graduate school, and really started to dive into how music was made. But again, it took a backseat. I had a career in software, and it sort of drew me to it, but I never really felt inspired enough to just stop what I was doing and to do it full time. And I think where things really started to make sense was when I understood that the career you can have in music, oftentimes, what didn't have to just be somebody who made music and produced it and had your name out there. A lot of producers need help. And there's an entire universe of people who in the background who do sound engineering, who do ghost production, who do beat manufacturing, and there's so many more of them out there than there are actual artists. And it was easy for me to kind of fit into that world because I could stay in the background. I could dabble in it as a hobby, and I started to realize, I think it was right around just before COVID, that I really understood and said, what I want to do is I want to DJ, and I want to be out in front and make more music and take credit for it and take that journey. And I think probably around 2021, 2022 was probably, going full tilt into the DJ world. Trying to learn everything I could. I went back, I dug up, old records and archives that my brother had. He had old vinyl records, and that became really easy. And I started to say, what, I wanted to learn. I had some friends in the Bay Area who were good full-time DJs, and they could teach me, and they were residents at clubs. And from there, it just became really natural to say, I'm going to pause a little bit on everything else in life, like full-time work, and actually go into music production. And I think the first few tracks I did, I look back at them and they're kind of painful when I listen to them, but they represent, I think, the first time I sort of let go. Yeah. And I think that's what all artists need to do. You're never really going to hone in on your craft until whatever's holding you back, either something in life, some mental obstacle, until you actually say to yourself, I am this artist, I am this DJ, I am a producer, and I'm going to go with everything I've got, even if no one ever comes to a show, even if nobody downloads a track of mine. Until you do that, you never really can give up the things that hold you back. And I think 2021, 2022 really was that time period for me where I said, there's nothing holding me back. I can do this. Look, I can make music. I can DJ. I can play on a stage. I can play at a club. And I don't think I've ever regretted making that decision.
Wow, it's like that surrender. I like the word surrender. It's like you're surrendering that, the fear or the ego or, whatever that's holding you back, and you just step into it fully, and you're like, I've got this. And even if it's like if it's just for you, it's like when you kind of like stop giving those F's, as we like to say, it really allows it for freedom. So, oh, that is incredible. So you got to this point, you've had this experience, you've given up the fear, and now you're pursuing music. And so you're full-time in music right now, or are you working any other jobs right now, or are you full-time?
I am in the process. It is hard going almost an entire year of just kind of doing music production full-time. Yeah. Especially if, you have like children to support and a life that you've got to pay for, it becomes difficult to do. And I think the reality is I found a really good rhythm with how to produce. I think my first few years was really messy. It's sort of like, if you're using hammers and chisels, and then you look over there and you see, a jackhammer, or you see the wheel, right?
You're like, I need to level up.
Music production is just like that. Yeah. And I've learned now to use a series of tools that vastly accelerate my ability to create, to test, and to engineer a song. And what used to take me literally months to do, I can do now in days.
Yeah.
in days time. And I've tried to shy away from cheating with things like AI, and there's machines now that can sort of like spit out a song for you, but I think most A&R executives and most music labels, they can suss those out.
Oh, definitely.
They can hear a song and know that this was created with some AI tool,
Yeah.
whereas a real production has a feel to it. It's got a sound quality. You can still do that, but not have to take weeks and weeks to craft it. And I think I found a rhythm to do that, and I think it's now a matter of really focusing in, because I've got a pretty significant body of work, and I've purposely been releasing them on a schedule. And my home label, kudos to Epsilon, they were really good and judicious about saying, Vozz, you can focus, you can do this, right? I mean, you can actually take some time to do this, focus on quality, and focus on really producing music that you like. Don't worry about what we think, what you like seems to work. And I think that's allowed me to say, hey, I can do other things. I can actually like go and pursue, other part-time fractional work or something full-time and still do as much music production as I want to.
Definitely. It sounds like you found a harmony there. And I kind of want to dive in deeper, because you touched on a point that I think a lot of artists, whether you're like a music or podcast or whatever your art form is, that they struggle with. What was it like when you were in that interim between using the chisel and hammer versus the jackhammer?
Yeah.
And how did you discover the tools? Like, what was that aha moment for you?
I think the aha moment for me was when you're 2-3 years in and you start to really feel comfortable with what you're doing, and then you kind of like, I call it lifting your head away from your DAW, out of your software, when you lift your head out of the keyboard and you go, whoa, I know 10 other people who do this. I know 10 other really good producers, and I haven't asked them a single thing for help. And we're all online together, or we're all on Instagram, or I see them every Friday at an event. And the aha moment for me was when I realized I had a large community going back several years of skilled musicians and skilled producers that I could get on a Zoom with, and they could show me the right way, to look at an envelope when I was EQing, or what to do with a plugin the right way. And I think for me, you realize that production doesn't have to be lonely. We have this image in our mind of, producers sitting by themselves, with their head between two monitors and slaving away. I mean, it is like that. There are jokes about trying to find the perfect kick and clap, and you do that at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. But the reality is production never happens alone. You actually have, sometimes if you're lucky enough, a mentor, or you have a friend, or you have a roommate, or someone in your network that is willing to help you. And that was the biggest aha for me, was that, look at me. I mean, I'm always about community in my events and my music and everything, but I haven't really leveraged the community of producers around me. And once I did that, I mean, things just clicked. I started talking to people who had a lot more experience, and the fact is they want to share.
They do.
They really want to share their knowledge.
They want to help.
They do, and I think that was a big aha, was, wow, I don't have to do this alone. I have so many human beings who are willing to help and show me what I'm doing wrong, and all I have to do is just show them, and nobody laughs at you. They all go, you know what, I did that. I used to do that too.
Yeah.
Let me show you a faster way to actually like duplicate that entire sound across this song. And just little shortcuts like that, and it begins to kind of open your eyes up to faster things. And that's how I found the tools. Because people said, why are you finding your samples there? Let me show you this. Or, hey, why are you using these plugins? There are other ones here that work a heck of a lot better and faster. And I think even learning how to get on distribution, right? I think my first tracks that I released, I did myself. I think I sent them out on DistroKid and TuneCore, and I just waited. I just looked at Spotify every day, and I was like, come on, algorithms, and like nothing happens. But talking to other artists about how you do it the correct way, and how to pick a label, how to read, the difference between, publisher and publisher royalties, and the royalties of the label, and all the different types of contracting. Nobody prepares you for that.
Yeah.
So while you're done with music, there's a whole business side to it that you can really only know if you have people that you trust. and they can explain to you what all that stuff is. And again, it was the light bulb for me that I wasn't alone doing this. I had an incredible community.
Oh, definitely. Surround yourself with good people. They want to help. That's the beautiful thing. And I feel like as you go on your journey, you'll also want to mentor other artists or see someone. I mean, one of the best feelings for me even is just to help somebody else like get on their feet, like with podcasting or something. Yeah. Is that true for you too? Do you help other artists, and how does that feel?
Yes, it does. I've had a few students that I've helped DJ, and watching them grow and flourish. I have a few students that I'm helping learn production, and watching them create a track and release it on a label and be so proud of their work. I mean, it really is. It's paying it forward. It's it's the cliche of that, but I really think again, it's when you're part of that community and you realize you're not doing this alone, that you've got a lot of help around you. It makes the whole sort of work behind all of the art worthwhile. But no, I think I try to do that. I try to mentor people, even if it's little things. Yeah. I mentored somebody, and it was a 3-minute conversation. And this DJ, he still tells me it was one of the best things. I could tell he was nervous. He was about to go on, and he was going to go switch up. And I could tell. I mean, I saw him shaking, hovering behind the DJ. And I went over and I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, come over here, back off a little bit. And he's like, whoa, did I do something? I go, no. There's 20 minutes before you go on. Don't stand behind the DJ. He's like, I know, but I just want to be ready. I was like, I know you do. And you're gonna. What's your name? And he introduced himself, and we talked, and I gave him some tips on the right way to step into your set. And he didn't know. He thought that it was cool and helpful, that he was being supportive by standing behind the DJ and kind of nervously hovering with his USB in his hand. And those tips that I gave this person, this was two years ago. I went and saw him play at a great venue called Sunset Sessions, the Ruby Room in Dallas.
Oh, I've heard of that place. I need to go there yet.
We have a Greenlight Social here in Austin. There's one in Dallas. And watching him play, and the grace and the ease and just the beauty of his movements. I mean, he looked like he had been playing at like Tomorrowland the week before.
Oh, I love that.
And he came off of there, and the first thing he did was come and give me this huge hug and say, I owe you so much. You have no idea. That was my first time playing in front of a crowd that big, and you calmed me down. You made me realize like you got to be cool. Like transitioning and the handoff is a key part of DJing, and you can't mess that up. You gotta do the handoff right. He goes, you remember telling me that? And I remembered. I did, but I had forgotten that I ever did. I didn't know that that's how I knew him. I'd met him over the years several times, but that to me is something important. And then I remembered too that I had a DJ help me that way too. When I first played at a club, we had to go up into this up, set of staircases into this stoop. And I remember the DJ that was up there who had just played said the same thing to me and said, hey, have you played here before? No, this is kind of a mean crowd. Let me give you some tips. And it was just phenomenal. And I think that you don't always have to maybe take somebody under your wing and teach them everything. Sometimes it's just a moment of kindness. Sometimes it's just, helping somebody figure out their way on a CDJ. I've seen that a lot. I see beginners, really scared. And you just kind of explain to them, hey, look, you see these? These line up with that. Or I've even said, hey, use the sync button. You trust me, use the sync button. And it gets people out of a jam. And they appreciate it.
That's the coolest story. And it really shows like it's those little moments. It's like a 5-minute moment in time, but those words, like I read somewhere a quote about like our words are powerful. So like when we are aware of that and use our words for good, like because our words could stick in someone's mind for a long time. And that's something I really feel like in that case too, was like a beautiful opportunity to just share a few words of advice when an artist really needed it.
It did the trick for him, and it went far. So I'm glad it happened.
Well, this has been such a fun conversation. I'd like to dive into our headliner hot seat.
Okay.
Are you ready for some headliner hot seat questions?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. What is one of the biggest challenges you faced as an artist, and how did you overcome it?
I think it's the promotion, the part of it that sort of sneaks up on you. If you've been producing or you grew up or you learn music, all of a sudden, you're hit with this reality that today, any DJ, any producer, anyone who wants to get their music out there, you also have to be a social media expert.
Yeah, you have to do all the things.
You have to do all the things. And, some people can afford a publicist, or they can afford, the public relations, or they can pay for, paid media and campaigns, but most people can't.
Yeah.
And you sort of see that. I see a lot of people who are really, really good with social media, but they're not that great at producing. Mm-hmm. And they're not that great at DJing. And I see a lot of folks on the other side, unfortunately, who are outstanding producers, but they don't really want to. They don't have that skill set of being a promoter. And I think the biggest challenge for me was just facing that reality.
Yeah.
I had someone very close to me tell me, listen, if you do not accept that you've got to be all over Instagram all the time, like it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
And I had to face that reality. I had to say, you know what? It is. I mean, now I love it. I mean, you can't get me off of Instagram now. But at the time, I mean, you have to face that. I mean, and I have a good friend who is a DJ, Tark, and he says this, and I'm going to steal his phrase. He says, producing today is a coin with two sides on it. On one side of that coin is the music you make and your art. On the other side of that coin, they're connected. There are two sides of the same coin, is all the promotion that you've got to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't promote, no one's going to listen to your music now. It's going to get drowned out. Because there's just too much competition, and everybody wants to be a DJ. Everybody wants to produce music. So if you want to do that, you got to find an audience. And the way to find an audience is by focusing on that part that sometimes we just kind of don't want to do. But it's a reality.
So true. I always like to tell artists, because I've experienced that same thing, and I think any creative who's trying to put themselves out there experiences this to some degree. Mm-hmm. And I always say for artists, it's like, remember how nervous you were that first time you play on the decks and you got over it and you found the love for it. The same goes for social media. If you're like nervous to make that post or scared of how you feel they're going to judge you, it gets easier, just like getting on the decks. Mm-hmm. That's a great one. What is something that you want to accomplish now you've moved to Austin, what is something you want to do in the next 6 months to a year here?
Like any DJ, when you're new to a city, you sort of ask around, what are the venues, right? Mm-hmm. I definitely want to play Greenlight Social here. I want to play, the Concourse, right? That's a dream for anybody who's in Texas. And then there's, being close to Houston, right? There's venues out there. Bauhaus is out there. There's just places like that where I think number one is making the rounds and being able to play some of the great Austin venues. But number two, and I think it's a really close number two, I really want to meet other DJs and producers and artists. When I think about the advantage of being in Austin as a creative, as an artist, versus being in any other city in Texas, there really is a dense concentration of artists here, right? There's a dense concentration of musicians. There's a dense concentration of of promoters, and there's this core kind of nucleus here, especially in the EDM scene. It's small, like it is in Dallas, but I want to be able to network. I want to be able to meet people who really promote and really create community also, and have access to be able to not just book me at a show, but also to open up community to me, right? I think the most exciting thing about being in Austin is this is a music city, right? It's a music city, and to be in that and to be immersed in that, it's exciting, especially being new. There's every corner, every handshake, every conversation is a new possibility and a new discovery for me as a DJ and as a producer. So I'm excited about that. I want to meet as many people as I can.
Definitely. I love that. And our third question for the Headliner Hot Seat is, who is someone who has inspired you and has had a huge impact on you as an artist?
Ooh, yeah. I think probably the biggest inspiration for me is a DJ producer, Solomon, right?
Solomon.
Yeah. If you know anything about his history, if you know anything about not just his music, but who he is and what he decided to do with his career, I mean, really at the height of his career, you know, taking what I think is a pretty big backseat to all of the glitz and the glamour and the traveling around the world. I mean, he plays really in just one or two places anywhere. And his music, his productions are so clean. I call his music honest production. It's very minimal. It's very, very clean, and it's true. You know, everything he put together, especially when he was at the height of producing, you know, he used simple techniques. If you look at his music, and I've looked at a lot of his tracks to try to understand, you know, how he's built them. One of the geeky things I do is, when I was teaching myself music, I would dissect a song. I would get the MIDIs and I would dissect the tracks, the stems, and I would load them into a DAW, and I would look at what, you know, James Hype did. I would look at what Sonny Fodera did. I would look at tracks by, you know, Max Styler, people that I admire, Mochak, and I'd look at them. And you can see signature elements, especially, you know, if these are tracks that they themselves do, not ghost produced tracks, real tracks. Mm-hmm. When I looked at Solomon's, you know, you can see there's an elegance, there's a symmetry, there's an elegance to it, there's a cleanness, there's a real deep attribution to like percussion, real percussion, not a lot of messy effects and things like that. So he did that for a long time, and his music, his early all the way to the middle of his career, was incredible. But then as a person, at the height of it, you know, he could have played Tomorrowland every single year. He could have been a headliner at EDC. He chooses to kind of almost adopt this like hermit producer, you know, almost like Rick, the guy who had Def Jam Records. Rick.
Yeah. Anybody know Def Jam's Rick?
No.
Russell Simmons?
The guy with the big beard who was a master producer, and he sits there with his Indian.
Yeah, he does stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, he sits there Indian style.
Yeah,
it's Rick something.
Yeah.
That image to me is what I think when I think about where I want to be as an artist, right? I want to be the bearded, wise sage, you know, just doling out musical wisdom. I mean, it's a beautiful image. And it's where we really want to see our artists, right? Like, we want to see our artists that we admire age gracefully. We don't want to see them in scandal. We don't want to see them, you know, go down in some, you know, horrific, you know, mess on stage, you know, playing and looking out of place. We want to see our artists, you know, gracefully age into this, you know, kind of this image we have. And I think it's powerful. And when you look at somebody like Solomon, right, whether he means to or not, when I see his video clips of him and I watch him play with, you know, the giant man bun, and he looks like he is at peace.
Yes.
I mean, he looks like he is enjoying what he is doing and who he is and what he's become. And, you know, I know that if I ever had a chance to just sit down in front of a production studio with him, I mean, it's just going to be like the ultimate mind meld. I'm going to learn so much. And I think I admire that so much, that when I think about how do I want to age as an artist, it's like him. I want to end up in Tulum, and I want to live and be natural and eat healthy food. And if I step onto the decks, I don't care, you know, if I'm wearing Prada or if I'm, you know, doing something fancy. I'm going to play music that I love, and I'm going to do it my way. And if people want to come and hang out at my decks while I'm doing that, hey, you know what, let's do it. And everything about him just embodies that, you know, sort of end vision and goal for me as an artist. And I think it's fantastic. And we should all aspire to that. I mean, to me, that's more important than, you know, the glitzy gold watch producer with, you know, 50 you know, top tens and gold records everywhere. I mean, we have to sort of end up in our art gracefully. And I think he embodies it.
That is incredible, and I completely agree. I think that's just such an inspiring story, because there are those people that we want to find that, like, there's a piece to it. There's a piece to it. Well, this has been a great conversation. Before we get to our final question, how can people connect with you online?
You know, you can find me on Instagram, Vozz Rich, my name, VOZZRICH. I'm there. You know, I have a website as well, vozzrich.com. But Instagram is probably the easiest, best way to get a hold of me and to connect. And, you know, I'm always open to collaborating, always open to meeting others. And, you know, if you're here in the Austin area, please don't be a stranger. Come find me. I'm looking to meet you. Thank you.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And our final question for today, Vozz, what is most inspiring to you today?
I think a couple things. I mean, one is the space. This is an incredible space. I sort of got, when I was up there doing my sound check, I was like, this is what I want my man cave to look like. This is it. I want those posters. I want all that booze in the back. And I want a little stage where my friends can all pop up on an XZ and, play.
Yeah.
And with, guitars and beanbags everywhere. So the space is really inspiring. And then I think, secondly, this is an incredible, welcome to Austin. So thank you so much, Kay. This is so warm and gracious. And, seeing friendly faces and all of this makes me really feel like this is a great place to be. And I'm just excited for what the next, year is going to be like. And I can't describe how grateful I am with everything in my life. I'm so happy for it.
Thank you so much. This has been so great. I'm so excited for everyone to, take a listen to this a couple times through. You had so many great nuggets of information. And thank you all for checking out Edcast. And again, shout out to Tequila 512 for this beautiful space that we're in today. And now, this has been great. Thank you so much, Vozz, for your time today on Edcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to do a quick stage change, and Vozz is going to take the stage and give us a nice DJ set.